Good afternoon, everyone. This is Chen Xiaohuang, and this is my video reflection for Translation in Specialized Areas, Model 5104. I will first introduce my backgrounds and my skills, and then I will demonstrate my expertise and my experience as a translator throughout the semester. And then I will brief my personal progress and the future developmental needs. I graduated from Beijing Normal University, Hong Kong Baptist University, United International College, from which I acquired a bachelor degree of teaching English as a second language. I am currently pursuing a postgraduate degree in the Master of Translation and Interpreting at the University of New South Wales in Sydney. I have excellent interlingual and intercultural communication skills, and I also have experience in translating texts of different topics, and I'm now specialized in medical, legal, and technical translation. I believe I have the skills for the advertised profile. I have excellent English language skills with the average IELTS score of 7.5. I also have good translation skills I acquired in daily and weekly translation. I have excellent computer skills. I know the basic knowledge of using Microsoft, Amara, EduSub, MemoQ, and MemSource. These are very useful computer skills for translating or captioning or subtitling. And I also have good management skills since I've been working as a project manager in the practicum course in this semester, Model 5112. And as I formally established, I have good communication skills, and I've been using these skills to liaise jobs from the clients. And I've been able to work individually or as a part of a team. I expertise in general translation across topics, and I'm also specialized in some translation areas, such as legal, medical, political, technical, and community. And I'm committed to consistent quality assessment and reflection to my translation process. Here are some examples. This is a technical translation, and it is about an exterior roller shade. And this is a game localization. And this is a medical translation about a pacemaker system. And this is a translation I did for a Melbourne hotel. And this is the interface of the caption I did for a short speech. And here are some more examples of my post-editing efforts. You can see the text in the red color. They are actually my efforts of post-editing. And the text on the right-hand side are the reflection to the translation process. And also, this is the peer marking efforts. You can see on the right-hand side are the comments I had from my peers. And these are very useful to improve my translation quality. Now I'm going to demonstrate my experience as a translator throughout the semester from the following aspects: process, techniques, resources, and personal and professional development. Process. First, the context. It means you have to talk with the clients and ask what they want with the job they sent you. For example, you have to know the requirements of the formats and the delivery date. Second, the analysis of source text. You have to analyze the source text in order to know who are the clients, who are the audiences, and what is the purpose of the translation. And after that, what I do is to translate, review, and deliver. I will exemplify that. This is the email communication I had with my client, and because of confidentiality issue, I have to erase her name in here. You can see that in the email she was very specific about formats, It was very important for a translator to know that before he or she kickstarts. And this is one of the analysis I did with the source text. From my analysis, I know that the audience of this text would be English-speaking customers, and the purpose of the translation is to explain the function of the mask to the customers, and the translation should appeal to the target users. And this is the delivery of work. Translation techniques are usually divided into direct and indirect. And here are some techniques I will usually use when I translate, and I will exemplify each one of them. First, borrowing. Borrowing is the simplest exchange between source text and target text without modification. And this is what I did with the translation using borrowing. I simply borrowed the term Cineverse from English into Chinese because there is no official Chinese translation for the company's name, so it is appropriate to use that in the Chinese translation. Calc. Calc is sort of like borrowing, but a calc term doesn't appear to be borrowed because it looks so naturally occurring unit in the target language. For example, in here, I use the term 万事达 as the term for the translation of MasterCard. 万事达 is actually borrowed from English, but after enough time, people no longer realize that this is borrowed from English because it looks so natural in Chinese. Equivalence. Equivalence is replacing source text units with those already accepted and appropriate in the target text. For example, 蓝图. I use the term 蓝图 in Chinese to translate blueprint. 蓝图 is actually is already a term that already exists in Chinese and has the equivalent meanings as the blueprint, so I use that as the translation for the word blueprint. Modulation. Modulation is changing the translation units into a different point of view to make it more comprehensible to the target language reader. So in this case, take the headache out of, I use a different point of view to translate it as 还有解难. Because if I translate the take headache out of literally into Chinese, it would sound very strange in Chinese and might not make sense to the Chinese reader. Transposition. Transposition is replacing one word class in the source text with another in the target text. It involves nominalization, changing passive voice into active voice, and changing passive into imperative. In this case, there involves a use of passive voice in the source text should be informed, and this is used to create a formal register. But in Chinese, formality does not associate with passive voice, so it is not necessary to render this passive voice from English to Chinese. And if I do that, it would sound very strange to the target audience. So in my translation, I simply change the passive voice into active voice to make it more comprehensible to the target audience. Adaptation. Adaptation is when translator substitutes cultural realities to or scenarios for which there is no reference in the target language, and there are three types: substitute, paraphrase, or omission. And in this case, the texts in the red color are actually real names in reality. But it would be very strange for English-speaking audiences to see real names or personal information being used in the text. So, in my translation, I omitted these names because I don't want to confuse the audience, and there is no twist of meanings if I omit those names. The resources I usually use when I translate are comparable text and materials from clients. This is an example of using comparable text. The source text in this case is Herborist cleanser mask introduction in Chinese. And in order to translate these texts into English authentically, naturally, I have to refer to a comparable text in order to know how to phrase. So I started research and I found one, Cal Rare Earth Pore Cleansing Mask, and it was very useful as a reference to my translation. Materials from the clients are also very important and useful resources for translators. This is an example of game localization. As a translator, I was only asked to translate the section that talked about the console of the game. But in that section, there were a lot of terminologies that I didn't know the meaning of because I have to put them into context to know the meanings. But luckily, the clients also provided us with the complete version of the game manual. So with that manual, we were able to know what those terminologies meant. And regarding my personal progress, I did encounter a few difficulties from the start, such as word choice, appropriateness of expressions and time, and knowledge of the specialized areas. But I got feedback from my tutors, and they were able to correct my grammatical and syntactical errors. And they also show me the better choices of words and what a more appropriate expression would be. And from their feedback, I knew that it was even acceptable for a translator to restructure the text if necessary. And at last, I was told by the tutor that it was very important to expose ourselves to the specialized text in order to have more knowledge of the specialized areas. And this is the application of feedback. With the tutor's feedback, I was able to correct a few grammatical errors I've made in my translation. And I was able to use a more accurate and appropriate terms to better render the meanings. For example, the in association with it doesn't actually refer to that all the parties contribute to the event, but with joint efforts from does. Future developmental needs. I think what I need to do is to expose myself more to the specialized text and to have so I can improve my background knowledge of those specialized areas. And also with that, I have to practice more. And I have to develop my own knowledge base, such as glossaries of certain translation topics. And in order to be more professional, preparation for accreditation is also necessary. And networking with other translators or translation societies or translation associations is also very, very important. And these are the references. And this is my contact details. And this is the end of my video reflection. Thank you.